Welcome to this week's Race Room. Coming up on today's show, we've got the top facts from F1 and WRC. We've got a velvet-covered Ferrari and... what was that? So, firstly, your news, and so much to talk about from the F1 out in Bahrain at the weekend. The biggest news, my number one fact for you this week is that F1 is exciting again. Yes, we had action right from the start. The Mercedes boys putting on a serious show. Lewis Hamilton overtaking Nico Rosberg before turn one. Nico was obviously on pole position. Mercedes, though, right up front, separated from the rest of the race, really. It was like there were two races going on, and so much wheel-to-wheel action. So much around turn one, Lewis letting Nico around on the outside and then taking him again on the inside. So much action, and thank goodness Paddy Lowe didn't come on the radio at lap 2 and say, boys, can you behave, and team orders, etc. Imagine what a race that would have been. Instead, we had some great racing. F1 is back on track, if you ask me, and it gave Lewis Hamilton his 24th Grand Prix win. That equals him with Juan Manuel Fangio. They're now 10th in the overall leaders of F1. They've won 24 Grand Prix. How brilliant. But his teammate Nico Rosberg, well, he didn't look so happy. But then who would blame him? He started the race in pole position, finished in second. He claims he had the faster car as well, which shows, though, if team orders come into play, you don't see the real driving. Lewis Hamilton holding Nico off. But Nico Rosberg still leads the championship, 11 points ahead of Lewis. Yes, you can see Nico not very chuffed to be in second place there in the press conference, not ideal. And they had a little bit of a tussle, so who knows who's going to win the tussle for the Drivers' Championship. Will it be Nico? Will it be Lewis? Can Lewis have another win, a third consecutive win? Mercedes leading the championship as well, 111 points they now have, clear of Force India by a lot. Force India on 44. And that was the biggest news of the weekend, I think. Sergio Perez taking the first podium for Force India in 5 years. Unbelievable. And quite a nice little point here, leading McLaren by 1 point. Now that must be a good feeling for Sergio Perez. Just great driving. What a podium as well. Who would have expected that last year with the dominance of Red Bull? We've now got Mercedes dominating. So dominating and putting on a show, Mercedes, but the person who I think put on the greatest show was Esteban Gutierrez, properly barrel rolling his car. He hit past Maldonado. Maldonado was coming out of the pit lane, Esteban going round turn one, and Pasta just absolutely went into Esteban and flipped his car properly over. Look at that, completely upside down. Luckily, Esteban walked away, but some serious gymnastics going on there with the Sauber. We hope he's all right, but wow, what a crash. Haven't seen that sort of thing for a long time in F1. This weekend in WRC, it was Rally de Portugal. Sébastien Ogier continuing to be so dominant in the championship. He won Volkswagen's 8th consecutive victory. That equals Citroen's record. He won the rally by 43.2 seconds, ahead of Mikko Hirvonen, who got his first podium now that he's back at M Sport, and Mads Rosberg completing the podium there with his co-driver Jonas Andersson, and he managed to spring into third place because Ott Tanak had a terrible crash on the Saturday morning. He was actually 11 seconds behind the rally leader Sébastien Ogier at that point. And then this happened, Colin Clark tweeting a great picture there of Ott's car in the same place that Jari-Matti Latvala had his huge off a few years ago. Luckily, Ott managed to keep the car on the road, but as you can see, completely smashed up. But Ott Tanak is definitely a dark horse this year and one to watch. He's really been putting the pressure on the World Rally Championship leader Sébastien Ogier. And Hyundai, ones that we're expecting quite a lot from for Rally de Portugal, especially after Thierry Neuville's podium out in Mexico. Can they get it back in the groove for Argentina? Danny Sordo's been saying he wants a drive at Argentina. I had dinner with the Hyundai lot at FAF Rally Sprint, and he was saying he wants more drives with the team, which is so nice to see because last year he was becoming so sort of disgruntled with the WRC. So hopefully more to come from Sordo and more to come from Hyundai. And of course, keep an eye on the channel because there'll be an onboard video of me in the i20 with Thierry Neuville and Juho Hanen coming soon. But that is your news. So as I mentioned in the news, Esteban Gutierrez flipped his car when he made contact with Pastor Maldonado in the Bahrain Grand Prix at the weekend. And it got me thinking because this is what he said just as his car went back onto the four wheels.
Whoa, what was that?
So yes, what was that? This was a question he was asking. He didn't know where Pastor Maldonado had come from, and it's got me thinking for a little strand this week, an exclusive Bahrain Grand Prix strand of what was that? So, I'm going to show you a few pictures. I've hand-picked them from James Moy's photos, one of our favourite photographers in the F1 paddock, and I want you to tell me what you think the photo is of. Driver, person, whoever. This one, the first one. Can you tell me which driver and who, or perhaps it is the same person, whose hand is on his forehead? If you know, comment below. There are things that we're going to be giving away, so get involved. The next one. Now, his teammate did better than him. Now, that is a clue for you. Not a great one, because obviously it's sort of 50-50. Who's this dressed up in traditional Bahrain wear? Next one. A youngster on the grid. Can you tell me who this is holding a towel to their head? Not a great race for this particular driver. And finally, I don't want to know who's in the background, it's too obvious, that's Caterham, but who is this doing a wicked jump in the corner? If you know who was doing this was in Malaysia during what looks like an incredibly heavy downpour. Who was doing this wicked kick? If you know, comment below. We're going to be giving away goodies that I'll tell you more about at the end of the race run. Right, time for what the camera's seen. This week, my camera has seen this slightly scary selfie again. I'm sorry, we keep on having these. But this was in the taxi I got yesterday, a WRC headrest. I love it. I might have to get some myself because they were actually removable. Have you got any? If you've got headrests that are branded WRC FIA World Rally Championship, let us know. Send us a picture and maybe you'll be on what the camera's seen next week. Get involved. And the next thing that the camera has seen is this, the incredible Rolls-Royce Phantom used in the Bond movies. I went to Bond in Motion at the weekend and this was one of the amazing cars they had on display. Have you been? If you have, why don't you send me your pictures? And finally, this incredible Ferrari wrapped in what looks like velvet. It could maybe be felt, but I think it's velvet. Driving down the Mall in London, I couldn't resist taking a photo. The only thing that I would just point out that this car was heading towards Trafalgar Square. Little did the driver know that it was International Pillow Fight Day in Trafalgar Square on Saturday. So I would love to have seen how that came out on the other side of Trafalgar Square. All I can imagine is just like feathers all over the velvet. It would have been incredible. What a picture. But yes, if you've seen that, perhaps Tim Schmee's seen it. Schmee, if you're watching, can you tell me who owns that awesome Ferrari? Get in touch, send us a tweet, Schmee. And of course, if you've got any pictures you want to share with us, send them to media@polepositionp1.com. Right, time for tweets of the week. I love this bit of the show. We have got some great ones. Grand Prix Diary here, talking about Weight Watchers potentially becoming a sponsor for Silverstone this year. Obviously, it's a joke, but it all refers to the weight issues that the drivers are having to face at the moment. Of course, they had to get down to a much lower weight this year, and Jean-Eric Verne, last month had to go to hospital because he got too thin and had lost a lot of energy. He got down to 67 kilos. A lot of the drivers struggling with it, in particular Adrian Sutil as well. He said it's so difficult to get down to weight this year. So the teams have now agreed a 10 kilo increase in the minimum weight, something they couldn't agree on before this year, but they have now. So hopefully it'll make it easier for the drivers, especially the taller and the bigger ones. The smaller drivers obviously not that keen to increase the minimum, but I can't see Weight Watchers actually ending up being a sponsor, can you? Next tweet. So this is from @FakeRonDellis. I love this Twitter account. If you haven't found it, make sure you follow some great tweets from them. And this making a joke out of Pastor Maldonado visiting Esteban Gutierrez. Of course, we mentioned in the news, Esteban Gutierrez barrel rolling his car at turn 1, but yeah, a little bit ironic, but I do quite like it. A little bit of sarcasm creeping in there. I would hope that Pastor Maldonado might be able to find a car park. Next tweet and final tweet. This from Darren Heath, another incredible F1 photographer in the F1 paddock, tweeting that Montezemolo has confirmed F1 will have V12 engines and be followed by a fuel truck. Obviously very sarcastic here. Of course, there's been issues with fuel flow and fuel management, and of course these V6 engines, which everyone says are too quiet, they want to make more noise, but really, is it all about the noise? Isn't it about the amazing racing that we saw this weekend? As I said before, F1 is exciting again, and that is your tweets. Right, so time to look ahead to this week and this weekend. coming up this week, you can see me in the hypersonic car at Silverstone. If you missed the hypersonic car racing Colin Furze's mobility scooter, keep watching. There'll be a link to that video at the end of this one. And of course, MotoGP moves to Austin this weekend. The second round of the championship, Marc Marquez says he's still not 100% fit. Of course, it was only 7 weeks ago since he broke his leg. He'll be out to take a back-to-back victory. And of course, Valentino Rossi will be wanting to show that his pace in Qatar wasn't a fluke. And Lorenzo, well, he'll just want to finish a race after that terrible crash in Qatar. Also this week, we're going to be going to ProDrive, to the Aston Martin guys, to see Ben Ainsley try his hand at racing. We'll be at Silverstone with him as well. Also, make sure that if you knew what the pictures were in What Was That we did earlier on in the show, get in touch, comment below, tell us who you think was in the pictures, and then we'll see you next week for more Race Room.